Welcome, everyone. This is Jamie Flinchball, host of People Solve Problems. And today we have a longtime friend, Melinda Manente, with us today. So, Melinda, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, fantastic to have you. Um, really glad to be, working with you. I've always wanted to find more opportunities to collaborate with you. So I get 20 minutes today, which I'll take. So by way of introduction, Melinda is a lean facilitator, instructor, and coach with GBMP Consulting Group in Massachusetts, provides clients with practical strategies to address cultural barriers, improve transactional and operational value streams, and deliver world-class results through employee engagement. All things that I know that have been near and dear to the work you've done as you've learned and experienced it from the inside. And so you're one of these, I'll say, consultants who really got most of your learning from being on the inside, going through transformation. And so why don't we start with that and really talk about, kind of where do you get most of your lessons on the stuff that you teach and coach people on today?
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Well, I feel like I've been really fortunate, maybe one of the few that's lived through a transformation from both a leadership perspective and a learning perspective. And it happened when I was working for Intel. This is several years back. Small site in Massachusetts. We were a satellite facility acquired from Digital Equipment Corporation. And we were a very high performing organization. So I'll start there that, this isn't always transformation. It's not always about going from horrible to better. We were good. We were doing some really good work, and we're very comfortable. Our product was, at the time that I started there, was leading edge. But as you know, in the semiconductor industry, you don't stay on the leading edge for long. Those were back in the days where we were transitioning a technology every 2 years. And so it quickly became apparent that we could no longer just be as good as we are, as we were. We needed to do something significantly different to stay in business. And so that's really where the experience comes from starting at that place and then ending up with a culture and a transformation that was dramatically different. And that's kind of the work that I draw on today, as being that inspiration of what is possible.
I love that. Again, we all have these transformational experiences to us, right? We're transformed through them. And it's great when we can reflect back on them. So you kind of mentioned you're already performing well, and the threat you had was not even overt. It was just sort of one of these inevitable things that are out there that we may one day, be less relevant. So how do you turn that into a burning platform or a compelling vision for change? And so how do you make that real for people? And did you make it real for everybody, or was it kind of, I just need to make it real for enough people?
Oh, so that's a great question and segue, because when I think back on it, it started, as many of these vision exercises do, as a plant staff offsite, right? And we opened the offsite with a question for all of us, which was, when have we been at our personal best? Because what we are trying to establish is an organization that is at its best. And so we knew that that was going to happen when individuals were motivated by what motivated them. And we had this discussion. It took us 2 days. But at some point, we had a graphic recorder who is drawing pictures for us of our conversations. And it became really real that we wanted, for various reasons, to have a full factory forever. And that mantra stuck. From a plant manager perspective, he wanted full factory forever for business reasons primarily. But many of us wanted full factory forever because we were tied to the Northeast. We enjoyed working for Intel. We enjoyed doing the work that we were doing. We had a family to support. We had family members that had critical health needs. just a wide variety of reasons. But we decided we can't stop there. So we took this idea of full factory forever and we went to our employees and we did it in segments with our leadership community first line managers and those that were department managers, and asked them the same question. Does full factory forever resonate with you and how? And so we led them through the same workshop and we drew 100 pictures in that session of what that meant for everyone there. And then we took it to the shop floor. So all 4 shifts, same conversation, same pictures that were recorded for them what it meant. And that made a difference.
Mhm.
I mean, when we finally put it on the wall, and we codified a graphic that represented Full Factory Forever, and we made a poster of it, and it was on our wall. But it was not just one of those, oh, you walk in and you see your emblem. It was a reflection of all of us and our commitment to be a full factory, whether that's full of wafers, full of people, full of excitement, full of energy, full of success. And that's really the origins of the transformation.
Yeah, I love that. So just as you took that all the way to every employee, why was that part important? I mean, a lot of times you'll have a leadership team, they'll have a vision, and then they sell it. And that can work, a lot of the time. And so I'm sure you could have said, well, okay, we have a vision for full factory forever. Let's sell it to the organization. But you took a different approach, which was less efficient for certain. But why was it important to choose the path that you chose?
Because transformation doesn't happen without people. And it doesn't happen superficially because a leadership team thinks that they want to do this. It happens because each of us in our work on a daily basis see an opportunity for improvement and make that opportunity a reality. And we knew we couldn't accomplish it by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, let's just even talk about practical approaches. You work in a 4-shift operation. You can't literally see everybody.
Right.
Um, we don't know what all the problems were. We need our employees to be engaged in that. So unless they understand the why behind why we think it's so important that this organization who's doing well
Mm-hmm.
needs to work dramatically different, then change isn't going to happen.
Yeah, I love that. So as we talk about, so that's the why change. Let's talk about what you changed, and what you changed into. So as most of us that have been through transformations, usually the first steps aren't the most compelling. They built momentum, but they maybe weren't the cornerstone, right? You don't build something with a cornerstone first. But what would you say was the cornerstone? What was the most essential element of what you were transforming into?
We had to learn it ourselves. And let me tell you that there was stops and starts. So we had initially done what every organization or many organizations start with. Let's find a learning lab and let's do some 5S work.
Mm-hmm.
And we as leaders got on the shop floor, and I remember being on my hands and knees cleaning the floor and talking to the operators that did the work and helping them to arrange their tools and their templates the way that they wanted to have them. And we walked out of the factory after that day and said, so what? Like, how is this really going to make a difference?
Yeah.
About a year and a half later, we restarted. And we restarted not that way by taking a tool and try to implement a tool. We took a problem, which was we needed to cut our cycle time in half and we needed to improve our quality. And we had those goals that inevitably led into cost. So our primary driver was cost and cycle time because we knew that that was going to have us stay on this final node of technology the longest in our factory network.
Mm-hmm.
That was our initial goal. And we didn't know how to get there. So I'll never forget it. We all went into the factory and the only thing that we were taught was here's a pen and a paper and write what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we had taken a lot of foundational classes, so we kind of got the idea of how to do a process map. But that wasn't the goal. The goal was to find an opportunity for improvement. And to do that because we were looking at the work that our people did. Jamie, it was the work that we had designed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we were trying to do our best, but we had never actually seen it in practice until that afternoon. And then our next challenge was by tomorrow, how can you make it better? So, by that goal of now, we're not talking about months. If I have to make something better tomorrow, what kind of improvement am I going to be making? I'm not trying to do the large and the hairy and the difficult. I'm trying to do what's easy. I'm trying to do the simple.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It was really hard to do the simple improvement. And so we knew as a leadership team, oh, okay, wait a minute. Our problem isn't implementing 5S. Our problem is how do we make it easy for our employees to see problems and easy for our employees to solve them.
Mm-hmm.
And that became our first goal.
Yeah. So, with that I'll call it a leap because you're looking to cut the end-to-end time in half, and you kind of go, oh, I need a couple of big home runs to make that happen. So even believing that small improvements can get you there, there's sort of, well, okay, how much did I get? How much did I contribute today? And how much does this problem contribute? And how much does this contribute? What was that? Was there as much unlearning as there was learning, or was it a leap of faith where you simply just said, we're going to do it a different way?
Yes. I mean, you have to have both of those, right? So we had to unlearn that this is not about a Pareto diagram.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to be able to tackle this in a tops down fashion by redesigning the process flow, because that is not, first of all, it's very difficult to do, and it's not going to have the impact. We learned a bit about Little's Law and how we needed to reduce inventory in the factory in order to improve cycle time. So that was important. It wasn't about throwing out that learning,
Right.
but it was about a leap of faith and knowing that if we wanted to have this happen at a brisk pace, this was not going to be an add-on to our work. We had to take ourselves out of our everyday jobs. I can't believe we actually did it. But the plant manager said, I'm going to take my staff. I've got, 10 individuals on my staff. 5 of you, I want you to do nothing else but make improvements. That's where we started. And so we literally dedicated our work to finding and solving problems and making improvements.
Yeah.
And we realized in that, I don't know, it was about a week and a half in. And we were at our reflection table, and we said, you know what? In order to move forward, our jobs can't be the same. This is what it's going to take, and we're only 5 people. So now, how do we scale this? And how do we scale it so that our employees, that our jobs are different and they now include an element of improving? Because up until that point, it had always been about engineering-led improvements and change.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It had never been about employees making improvements and change. So that's where we had to dramatically do things different and unlearn.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember at one point saying, the plant manager saying, you cannot say no, engineers. When an employee tells you they need help and they need something different to make their jobs easier, your response needs to be, well, how am I going to do that?
Yep.
Not, you can't do that.
It's great. It's a good good starting point for engagement. Now, I some people know I love to when somebody says, "Oh, when we're done with our day job, we can do continuous improvement," and I harp on that. No, this is your day job, so people know not to say it that way around me at least. But the work that you were doing doesn't go away. So so the temporary measure was I'm going to take half my staff, which is a bold move, and we're just going to work on improvements. So that's a great, sort of inflection point to get going. But in terms of codifying it and making it sustainable, again, the work you were filling your day with before doesn't go away. So, how did you make the transition to continuous improvement and problem solving is our job every day, regardless of your role, and not just when we're done with our day job?
Well, I mean, some of the work does go away because you realize what's important and what you can take off of your plate. And so it was surprising how much capacity we had when we simply said no to everything that we did think was important as a leader. So there was certainly some of that had to happen, some shaving off. But I will say for us, the key learning was that to undo the habits, like you mentioned, we had to be dramatic about it and stop doing the work cold turkey. And I imagine it's like any habit that you change, yes? In,
Mhm.
or, in order to do it, you have to stop what you're doing in a pretty dramatic way. And we did that with our frontline managers as well. So
Yeah.
we went all the way down the chain, and we realized that unless we pulled people out of their role, and we did it for 4 weeks. So we called it a boot camp
Hmm.
passion of having individuals not do what they were doing before for 4 weeks, you'd be surprised at how much capacity we actually had on our plate when we gave ourselves a permission to say we're not going to do our jobs the old way.
Yeah.
And by learning that way, it started to scale.
Yeah. I love that. And a lot of things we can do in 4 weeks once we are given a chance, which is amazing. Um, so now that they've been given this chance, you're basically saying problem solving is part of our job. We're throwing away the Pareto chart. We're working on stuff we can fix immediately. What what lessons come out of that from how the problem solving changes, whether it's skills or perspective or methods? How does the problem solving change in that shift?
Well, the first thing you've got to do is change the definition of what a problem is. So, for us, a problem used to be a wafer scrapped, or you have an excursion, something pretty large.
Yeah.
What we had to move down to is a problem is a second of delay when you have an additional keystroke when you're introducing a lot box into a piece of machinery.
Hmm.
That's really different. And I remember we had a team whose goal was to improve problem solving. It was a sub team of this initiative. And the individual who was in charge of it came in with a coach on a Saturday. And the whole idea was, how are we going to swarm a problem? We're going to have a problem that's going to come up, and our employees are going to tell us about it, and then we're going to go swarm it. And so we let everyone know, this we're doing this experiment, and here's the number you call when you have a problem. And I wasn't there, but the story is that the individual who was waited at the phone, and there's no call. Like everything's fine. Um, and so they went into the factory and looked and found problems all over the place. We had to redefine what that was
Yeah.
and show individuals what the problems were. So that going from that large to small is one of the key learnings. Um,
Yeah. Love that. So we're just about out of time, but I think anyone listening can take away that there were lots of lessons learned, and you allowed that for yourself as an individual, but also for the team to learn throughout, to be surprised, to try some things that maybe were uncomfortable. But at least for you personally, what would you say was the biggest surprise that you took away that you wouldn't have maybe expected going in?
I think it was what I was capable of doing and what the team was capable of doing far exceeded my expectation. And Jamie, it was scary. It was pretty scary to say the job that I had been doing for so long was no longer the the right work, the important work, and you got to start over and try something different and learn from a new set of eyes. Um, we accomplished great things. We ended up staying on the roadmap at least 3 to 4 years longer than we thought. We ended up leading the factory network in both cycle time and cost, just as we had set out to do. And that this can be done, that it's possible. Knowing that this is a possibility was was a great learning.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of us can be surprised like that when we don't have a choice but to rethink everything for whatever reason that might be. But choosing to face that, as you all did, is a different story. So I know you took a lot away from that experience, and I hope our listeners take take a portion of those lessons away as well. So thank you, Melinda, for sharing.
Great to be here, Jamie. Thank you.